All right, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter. She's joined just now live outside that courtroom in Walterboro, South Carolina. Hello, Chanley. The day after, as it were, incredible coverage over the last 6 or some odd weeks. And you were in that courtroom for yesterday's sentencing. For this morning's sentencing. So tell us what it was like in the courtroom for that.
Great to be with you, Michael, and Judge Ashley. I hope to see you in person someday soon. Yes, it's been a long trial here in South Carolina, and today it culminated with a high drama inside the courtroom. Of course, people lining up still to be in there for the sentencing today. What will Judge Newman do? And we all filed in, including the family of Alex Murdaugh, after he arrived here. Here's his arrival earlier this morning, actually, I think that was maybe not this morning, because he had on something very different inside that courtroom today. He had on his jail-issued uniform. He was handcuffed and shackled. Of course, you can see his family back behind there. Buster, his brother, and his sister, other family members there who were consoling each other, patting each other on the back as they anticipated what would happen. And before he stood before Judge Newman to be sentenced, 11 of the 12 jurors who convicted him yesterday of the murder of his wife and son filed in the courtroom and sat in the gallery like everyone else. They were so committed to want to follow this to the end. They didn't have any comment to the public and didn't want to speak to media while they were here, but they were looking on as Judge Newman addressed the defendant. No victim impact statements, but the defendant himself did speak. Let's watch.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Pawpaw.
And as Judge Newman addressed the defendant, handing down his sentence, giving him the maximum for both convictions of murder or life, of course, he talked directly to Alex Murdaugh, as you just sort of played, about how he has other pending matters in this case. And there was one moment that really had some reaction when he talked about seeing, Maggie and Paul all day, all night. That was a moment. And then once Judge Newman said life, a couple of the jurors, Michael and Ashley, looked over to the family and to see if Buster had any reaction, or John Marvin. We couldn't note any reaction there, but there was one juror who kind of nodded in agreement with that sentence.
Boy, I'm a little surprised, I must say to both of you, Michael, Chanley, that Alex Murdaugh said anything. I mean, here a judge is saying, really, I endorse what this jury just did in your conviction and all of these things I want to say about it. And then he still speaks up and says, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, no, Paul sees me or not. I'm thinking, I don't think the judge meant that in the way you're thinking it was meant. So, Chanley, the descriptions you've been giving are so vital, I think, for us to understand the full picture of what's been happening in that courtroom. The other thing I think we can all agree with is that both sides were zealous in their advocacy throughout a very long trial that took, as to your point, Michael, you said to me, this is an 18-hour day plus. Yes. Then you go and prepare for the next day, Chanley, just like you've been doing there, we've been doing here. It's a lot of work to try a case. So tell us the opportunity you had to speak with the prosecution, Chanley, and a reaction that they may have had to the sentencing.
Yes, prosecutors making a victory lap, if you will, here outside the Colleton County Courthouse today after what you said, months and years of work. Culminating today with what they call justice in this case. And there's been a lot transpiring here outside this courthouse for about 24 hours. It was about 24 hours ago that we sent the jury, or we didn't, but the judge sent the jury out to begin deliberations, and we were out here doing live shots. And then suddenly we heard, oh, there could be a verdict. Let's go back, though, and look at that moment.
The defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict.
The State versus Richard Alexander Murdock, defendant. Guilty, verdict. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Oh my gosh. And so that was a quick verdict. We're hearing from so many people around this property, and the excitement, the energy is still going. It's kind of back down a little bit, but like I said, the prosecution team out and about here speaking to everyone. We were able to catch up with both Alan Wilson, the Attorney General, and Creighton Waters, the lead attorney here, and here's what they had to say about this verdict.
For for 6 weeks, so it's been exhausting. I think I am, and I think our team is still fairly numb. I think we hadn't had a chance really to rest yet and let it sink in. I'll say this, and this was kind of a weird feeling. You know, trial lawyers tend to be superstitious. You know, I don't like to think about results and verdicts. People try to come talk to me. What do you think? I'm like, I don't want to think about it. But I was less nervous yesterday than I think I've ever been, and I don't think that was any sort of overconfidence or arrogance. I think it was just we had left everything out on the table. We had reached a point where obviously we were very tired, and then it was out of our hands. Obviously, when they came back after 3 hours, that's usually a good sign for us.
It is. So again, that team pleased with the outcome of this case, Michael and Ashley.
All right, now, as far as all the cases we cover here on Court TV, I would say this is one of the cases where the community was really sort of invested in the case. We saw this in the Arbery case. We saw this in the Chauvin case, of course. But this case, a little different. It was a smaller community and involved in it for a little bit different reasons. So I want to check in with you about what you were able to discern about the community's reaction after the verdict.
Right, a lot of court watchers here and a lot of opinions, as you can imagine, about this case, and we caught up with several of them after this verdict to see what they thought about it. Let's watch.
I was actually directly behind Buster, so I felt sorry for him.
Yes, sir.
You know, him and Lynn was there in the courtroom, and it was sad, you know, because, you know, they're family. They love him regardless.
Of course, Buster is back there, and it is sad, very sad for the family. What has happened here has just been devastating to the family.
I did feel, I have to say, I felt so bad. The family sitting there, and Buster and Lynn, your heart just breaks for the family itself. But I think it was a correct verdict.
That seems to be the consensus here, that it was the correct verdict, those who've been watching. Although before this, a lot of individuals we talked to in the line each day thought it was going to be hung like Judge Ashley. That was something that was a popular opinion. And we're actually just learning that right now, as of right now, just a few hours after sentencing Ashley and Michael, that Alex Murdaugh is back in Columbia. He's no longer being housed here in Colleton County.
Oh, wow, we knew that was going to be happening. That was quick. They got to get him moved over there. So we know there are no winners in a case like this. That's an obvious. There are no winners, but the defense is the losing team. They lost their defense of Alex Murdaugh. Tell us, Chanley, what was their response, their reaction when they learned that their client received 2 life sentences?
Well, they scheduled a press conference, and it was to be after the sentencing today, and they did. Dick Hartley and Jim Griffin addressed a crowd of media that gathered in front of this courthouse, and the defense team returned to its theme of focusing on that sled investigation and how that this is an unjust verdict, that the real killer or killers are still out there. Let's take a listen to what they told the media earlier today.
SLED needs to do some self-examination on the forensic processing. They did not. I mean, one of the things we complained about was that Maggie's phone would have had all her GPS data on it if they processed it within 5 days. And because they didn't, the GPS data got overridden. I mean, it was just one, which would have been helpful to Alec. It's fingerprints, footprints, and all kinds of forensic things that weren't done.
Of course, the defense team says they will appeal these convictions. They have 10 days in which to file notice of the appeal, but they did address that in the press conference earlier. And one of the main grounds they plan to attack would be the judge allowing the financial crime evidence into this trial. Let's watch.
Once they got that character information is he's a thief, he's a liar, then it dictated this jury had to think he was a despicable human being and not to be believed. So it was about character. It wasn't about motive. So as a result, our options were limited. Should he take the stand? Well, you know, we debated that. He always wanted to take the stand. But once that information was in, I mean, he had to take the stand to explain the kennel video, the lie, if you will. He had, but he had no credibility. His credibility had been stripped away.
The attorney said that they will personally be handling the appeal from start to finish as far as it goes. Ashley and Michael.